I think that there's a bit of self-selection going on. If you think of the kind of the psychological profile of a person that is so disagreeable that they're willing to leave their social circles, because when you leave religion, you're sometimes you're leaving your entire social support behind, whether it's your family or
Yeah.
your friends. Or I mean, this is very common in religions like Mormonism, Islam. And so it takes a person to just say, you know what, all that is bull, but not just all that is
Mhm.
bull, but I'm actually going to leave, because you're to leave a social support system behind is a very bold move. And it takes a certain, disagreeable person to do something like that. So I think there's some sort of self-selection going on. Activist types have a certain kind of mental profile. So to begin
Mhm.
with, I was telling Thomas before the show, there are, Pew Research actually found, for example, which take this how you will, 62% of white people who classify themselves as very liberal or liberal
Mhm.
have been told by a doctor that they have a mental health condition. This is in contrast to 26% of conservatives and 20% of moderates, right? So
Mhm.
you have this imbalance already. People who identify as liberals are about 3 times as likely to have mental health issues. Of course, you can debate about why that is. Probably there is a self-reporting issue. Maybe it is true that conservatives are less likely to see the doctor admit that they have a problem to begin with, so
Mhm.
they don't get diagnosed, versus people who identify as liberals tend to go more to the doctors and are more comfortable talking about mental health, so they get diagnosed at higher
Mhm.
rates. That's possible. But this result has bared out for quite a while. And I've seen research going all the way back to 2007, and the same pattern, is in place.
Mhm.
And I think most atheists tend to be liberal. And so you
Yeah.
have this self-selection effect, right? I mean, because most conservatives are religious, and so they're conservatives. And so you have the
Mhm.
self-selection effect where I think more people have mental health issues. And now you couple that with the fact that they are divorced from their social network. All of a
Mhm.
sudden they get thrust into this new social struggle. So
Yeah.
a big part of it is that these groups, these atheist groups that they start joining, becomes their social support. And worse, it becomes their identity, their new identity.
Yeah.
And because they have this identity crisis, right? And so you couple all these kind of like, these are it's like a recipe for some sort of like personality, like just
Mhm.
issues.
Right.
And what we've seen, I've witnessed at atheist conference, actually, kind of histrionic behavior. Like, I won't
Very
name
much
who.
so. I stating this from my own bias and also my own personal experience. I started in politics going to American Atheist conventions, going to so many Secular Student Alliance conventions. There was a time, one of my first conventions ever was the Secular Student Alliance convention in 2016. And I remember hanging out in a dorm room lobby with all the different attendees. And there were two different mental health breakdowns going down at the same time. This one poor woman freaking out and rushing to an elevator because someone talked about the mere existence of firearms. And this person screamed to the top of her lungs, went to an elevator. And I saw this happen at numerous other atheist conventions. Granted, that example was a very extreme one, but similar behaviors happened at nearly every other national atheist event that I could think of. And we let these people take over the movement. Compare that to the conservative conferences that I've gone to over the past few years, CPAC, the Turning Point Student Action Summit, Turning Point USA just had America Fest happening a few days ago. You go to those events, and it's not like there aren't people there that have their own mental health issues and extremists on the other end of the political spectrum. But you usually tend to see people that you, as a heterodox person, would classify behavior-wise as, not to sound mean, more normal behaving, somebody that you can have a conversation with, someone that you can have a dialogue with, someone who you're not questioning just by looking at them directly for the first 2 seconds. Is this person nuts? Is this person crazy? Am I going to get noted on a blog somewhere after just disagreeing with them just slightly on one little tiny issue? But it
Yeah.
was quite visible. It was quite visible comparing the atheist scene from other different countercultures. And
And
I
it's strange
noticed
to
it
me,
myself.
actually. You're right, because because of this huge overlap in atheism and science, you would expect the atheist to be the one to come up with something like facts don't care about your feelings,
Right.
right? Because we're the ones that embrace science. Why did it take Ben Shapiro to come up with it?
Yeah.
And it became like his call sign. This is very strange to me. And one of the things that you just pointed out, I think the word I would use is stoicism.
Mhm.
There is a sense of stoicism that conservatives tend to have. Like, you separate
Mhm.
your emotions from from your behavior. You don't kind of like internalize everything, and
Mhm.
then you kind of see what happens to activists. Like, I'll never forget what happened at Yale, where the students were surrounding Professor Nicholas Christakis, and they
Yes.
were shouting and screaming, "You make us feel unsafe." Why? Because he sent an email saying that Halloween costumes are not racist. We should all, just partake in the holiday and have fun. That was the
Mhm.
gist of his email. And the histrionics that invoked was, I don't know where that came from. And that's the kind of behavior that you witnessed and I witnessed at Atheist Conference, with activist types screaming. I mean, so Thomas and I have gone to conferences like the, Mythicist Milwaukee's Myth Informed conference. We've had sort of activist types who weren't even there calling in, reporting bomb threats, getting sponsors to pull out. I mean, they're very motivated to
We needed police
cancel, and they're not
protection.
even there. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember being at a Mines IRL, the after party in 2019. Antifa was protesting us across the street in a small town, Pittman, New Jersey. And we were not even allowed to leave the building because the organizers feared for our safety. We had cops guarding the back door for us. Andy No was inside with us. So that was another another asset that greatly needed to be protected too.
Well, the worst part about that conference is that those people, right,
Mhm.
actually called Daryl Davis, who was inside the bar with us, a white supremacist.
Yeah, a
Because
black
Daryl
guy.
Davis, a black man who has de-radicalized more KKK members than anyone else, he has actually obtained 200 hoods after these people left the Klan because of
Mhm.
his engagement with them. What have these people ever done for fascism, right? They're like, bash the fash. Well, Daryl has done more than anyone,
Mhm.
and here they are bashing him outside of the bar, calling him a white supremacist. I mean,
I know.
how morally depraved do you have to be that you're calling Daryl Davis? And so one thing I found out was that the organizers actually offered to go over and invite the Antifa members who are protesting into the bar to have a conversation. I mean, if Daryl
Mhm.
Davis can converse with the grand, like the Grand Duke or wizard or whatever of the KKK movement, he can certainly have a conversation with Antifa. Guess what?
Right.
They didn't want to do it. They
Of
actually
course.
declined.